The Morning Brew podcast with Jaffe and Razor, sponsored by Berkshire Bank Home Lending, where you borrow matters. Well, we were wondering what the Boston Bruins were going to be about on this road trip, Razor. As we welcome you into another Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, presented by Berkshire Bank. And we wondered how they would handle the time change, the travel. Coming off some good stuff at home, the road is always a different place. And after a 7-0 win on Monday over the LA Kings, and then a couple of days before, a 3-1 win over the San Jose Sharks, we saw two different Boston Bruins in the sense of style, but yet the same result is wins. And so now they're 3-0 on this road trip. Big score in LA, Razor. Did you like that game more than the San Jose game? That was more of what we like to term a grind fest. And I think there was a big difference in those games, but in a good way, meaning they won one way and then they won another way.
I would think that they played a more solid. Now, they were really solid against LA too, but they got a lot of freebies from Jonathan Quick to start the game off with, down 2 minutes in with a wrister like that. That makes a big difference for a team, both sides, both the Kings and for the Bruins. So I guess in hindsight, but looking at them both, I love both games. I love the way they grinded out in San Jose and didn't give anything up. And they scored a lot of goals against LA, but they didn't open it up to do it. They didn't give LA anything either. So really impressive 2 victories for the Bruins. 3 now on the road. They've kept everybody in their sights. I was looking at the standings last night. They're 6 points back. They're telling each other that we can move up still in this division.
Yeah, go from wild card to perhaps we'll call it a regular spot or a top 3 spot in the Atlantic, where Toronto, Florida, and Tampa are atop. Just the notes against San Jose. I mean, they allowed just 16 shots on goal. Just 16 to San Jose.
9 through 2.
Right. Now, San Jose's missing Erik Karlsson. I get it. And they're not the same San Jose Sharks of even 2 years ago or 3, whenever it was, when they were putting up more points and, more offense. But 16 shots is pretty damn good. Brad Marchand with 2 goals and an assist in that game. Seeing him reset, so to speak, reemerge. He wasn't bad in game 1 when he came back on the road, but game 2, he was totally Brad. He was rad Brad in game 2 when he was back. The feel, the vibe, everything was there. The chemistry, it was gelling more, not just with Patrice, but with Jake. And that was great to see. And obviously in that game, you get another good performance from Jeremy Swayman. And so, you start seeing more. You start seeing some good things. Then you go into LA, and as you said, you get a goal a minute something in from Jake DeBrusk on a shot where, as you put it, you said even my 12-year-old, would be able to stop. It's being facetious. It's just you're not used to seeing that from him at that time.
No, I mean that's a once in a season shot, and the Bruins were fortunate to be on the side of it to have it go their way, and a lot of times, very rarely do goalies bounce back from that, or teams even, especially teams that are playing their 3rd game in 4 nights against an out of conference team. Those are tough to bounce back from, and you could see that LA never did, and Bruins never allowed them to either. And I'll give Bruins credit for that, because again, they never chased, they never tried to get cookies, they never tried to go get more goals. They just played solid defensively and took advantage of all their opportunities. So there's a lot of good in the Bruins game, and the way they're playing defensively, the way their goaltender's playing. Jeremy Swayman's lights out right now, and now all of a sudden you have a forward group that is solidified with Jake DeBrusk jumping on that right wing up front. They have two very good offensive lines. They have a great third line, and their fourth line's more than workable with
Yeah.
Thomas Nosek in the middle. Like they're really hard to play against all of a sudden. They're really hard matchup all of a sudden, and it's great. It's just fun to see. It feels like a legitimate team again, just out of nowhere in the last 5 games.
It feels better for sure. I want to ask you about mindset of a goalie, and I know you're not in Jonathan Quick's head, but you've been in the crease before. Similarly, what went through your head when a goal like that went in? What exercise do you go through the first goal where it went through his body from, was that 45 feet, 50 feet? Where that,
Yeah.
Jake puts it on net, great, but come on. What goes through your mind? How do you reset there?
Well, you kind of laugh it off at on some level. As long it depends too. It obviously wasn't his night. He obviously didn't have a great day. He wasn't. He was rattled to begin with. I think sometimes you can let those in, and you can kind of still feel good about your game. And for a guy like Jonathan Quick, I mean, he's up to almost 700 starts. He's got 350 wins in the league. So he's had these nights before, and he might still have a couple more left in him. So you can develop, you can just bounce, you just let it go. Really, it's that early in the game where it shouldn't affect the outcome.
Mhm.
If you play well from then on, your team's going to score at least one more, and that's what you tell yourself. All right, that sucked, and let's move on from that. The ones later in the game can be more difficult. If you lose a game with 3 minutes left on one of
Right.
those, you feel
Okay.
much worse. At this point, for Quick to wake up this morning, he gave up a bunch of goals. So it's like, all right, we'll just keep moving on here.
Yeah, and the second goal was from a much closer distance, and it's off of a pretty bad turnover by Kings defenseman Mikey Anderson. As we called it, it's one of those hot, fresh pizza deliveries right up the middle of the ice. I know he's probably. I'm going to guess that Quick has probably saved that shot 80% of the time. I'm going to guess, maybe
Yeah.
even a little bit more, but 80% I think would be fair. But Jake did get a lot on it. I mean, I'll give Jake credit there. As I said in the post game, which I'm sure everybody stayed up for at 1:30 in the morning to watch. It
Yeah.
felt like the first goal was, were you kidding me? Second goal was not bad. Third goal was great, right? That was skill, the redirection. But Jake got rid of the puck quickly. So key. Find himself in the middle of the net, middle of the ice again, and put it off of, what was it? Off of his glove shoulder. It was more of his shoulder, and it went in
Yeah.
past Quick. And I don't know, once it was 2-0, there's games where you think, well, you got to be careful, right? You got to be careful, bees. Don't give them that one. I never felt that way. I guess let's fast forward though to the second period when the 5-on-3 happened, and that was when Frodin had a penalty in offensive. Or I beg your pardon, that was. Who was
Yeah.
the
It
fourth? The
was
second
Jesper got the
first
forecheck.
one. Jesper got the first one, and
first
Forbert.
one.
Yeah, and then Forbert.
Yeah.
So
The
that's in the
trip behind
second
the
period.
net.
And even there, Razor, did you feel that the Bruins were in danger at that point? Giving up that
No.
one that could change the tenor of the game.
No, it didn't. And I think that's same in San Jose, where it was a tight, close game. But I think we've had that feeling at times, and Bruins fans have had that feeling for the most part of this season, where it's like, ooh, this is dicey here. Not that feeling of like I had last night at 3-0, or like I had in San Jose, even at 2-1, where they're winning this game. They're not choking this one up. And that's, I think, is the feeling that is different for me but I think in general of this team. All of a sudden it feels like they've got it figured out, and they're not going to give up a 1-goal lead in the third, or they're not going to give up a tied game in the third. They're not letting anybody back into this game because they're just being so solid. And yes, even if a 5-on-3 goal goes in, it's still 3-1, and I feel like they're not giving up 4 goals. It just doesn't feel like they have that ability to do it right now.
Jake DeBrusk gets his hat trick, his first ever NHL hat trick after having 9 career 2-goal games. His celebrations have been much less muted. It's been great to see him smile and be very impassioned, in fact, at times. Wasn't sure that one was going to count. I understand why it did. The NHL didn't say it was inconclusive, by the way. The NHL in their statement, and I paraphrase, said, it where the puck hit on the shaft of the stick, they felt was determined was to be at or below the crossbar. Remember, it goes crossbar in, not shoulder height for goals that go directly in. I was still uncertain. I couldn't tell. One angle looked tough, Razor. The other angle looked not bad. Meaning there's 3 or 4 angles we saw. One where I think we were both like, geez, that doesn't look good there. But that's the old difference. I mean, it was in front of the net. It was front side. You can't really tell. And the other 3 were like, that really totally is inconclusive. With that said, I guess I'm getting it. I think the league got it right because for what they knew and with the call on the ice being a goal, I don't think they had any other choice. I mean, there was nothing distinct that said it was definitely above the crossbar.
That's right. That's yes. And I guess on the flip side, it would have been nice for our argument's sake here, and we would have had a better idea what the league was looking at had they said no goal on the ice, and would they have overturned it that way? That would have been, I guess, more telling because there wasn't a great angle. It was in a spot on the ice where the cameras can't really catch all of it at the same time. And the best angle that there was the one that didn't have the crossbar in it. That's what felt like the best angle. So again, that's Jake. The way Jake's going and the way things are going for him, he gets that call. And the way John Quick's night was going, he wasn't going to get that call. That is hockey in a nutshell, right there.
So, and it's great for Jake to get these goals with Brad and Patrice on the ice. As again, the first few that he had in Seattle, they weren't on there. But I know I'm not splitting hairs here. It's just a scenario thing. It's you want to contribute with those guys. The pressure to contribute with 37 and 63 it's got to be significant. Because all eyes are looking on you. You know that you're jumping over the boards more often than not, especially for an offensive zone faceoff. Like Patrice is over the boards before the linesmen have even picked up the puck on an icing call against the opponent. Like Bergie's like, I'm going here and I'm going to this side. So if you're playing on that line, there's got to be pressure. We know that. We talked about their expectations, but just how about the player that is? You feel like you've got this great chance, but I can't imagine that there haven't been players that try to skate with them where they say, oh no, if I do this, I'm going to have that happen instead of just flowing and going. I guess the point is it looked to me like Jake was more flowing and he's more going because of it right now.
He does. He looks like that. The mindset, the body language, everything's taken a 180 within 9 days, and it's a good thing. It can still give you pause because it changes so quickly with Jake at times, one way or the other, that you're not completely all in. I don't think, but run with it as long as you can, and you hope that it's a 3-month run at this point.
Yeah, a couple of other things from the game that are definitely worth noting. Erik Haula with 2 goals. Career number 100 and 101 for Haula. He picks him up later in the game, but another strong game. 55% in the faceoff circle, a +3. The 2 goals. His confidence continues to build. Not that I ever think he was short of self-confidence, but I guess his hockey, puck touches increases. He's been getting some assists lately, but to pick up the goals, I thought significant. I thought was real significant. Bergeron, a goal and 2 assists. Just another pedestrian night in the faceoff circle for him, though. That's 2 games in a row, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think because in San Jose it was 50% as well, or 52, if I remember correctly. Here it was 50%. He had 2 shots on goal, 3 more that had missed the net. But in an involved game, a beautiful tip on the power play, off the David Pastrnak play, off of the Brad Marchand face-off play, so that, you're always, you keep rooting for Bergie to score. I do, at least, because everybody says, oh, well, Marshy's doing the scoring, or now, before it was Pasta and everything. And Patrice, if you remember, he started the year so slowly, not scoring until that outburst against the Detroit Red Wings. And now I would say he's got 15 goals. It's pretty good. I mean, he's another 20 goal season on the horizon for him.
Yeah, he's gonna be real close to that 25 number, and that's elite.
Yeah.
For everything else he does on top of getting 25 goals is elite, and that it proves that the level that he's at, and it proves the level that that line is at, all the things that they're able to do. And again, if they're going like that, it trickles down through the rest of the group. Taylor Hall, I mean, he's flying. The way
Mm-hmm.
they're playing, David Pasternak played a solid game again. Nothing flashy, but the turnovers are starting to go away. His defensive zone play is at a really solid level. No neutral zone turnovers against a team that's very good in the neutral zone. He's just they're in a really really nice spot with all of their games individually and as a group.
Would you feel the statement that I think they won the game because of their neutral zone play? Would you think that would be
Yeah,
fair or no against LA?
it would be fair. That LA had no odd man rushes. If they had a 3-on-2 or there was so much back pressure, there was no time to make a play for
Yeah.
the 1 or 2 3-on-2s they had. There was no 2-on-1s, no, and that's what 1-3-1s do. They create those kind of counter opportunities to be able to get on their horses and get up ice real quickly off a turnover and create odd man rushes. And that's why they're scoring. LA was scoring 4 goals a game in the last
Coming
3.8
in.
in the last 10 games. Like this
Mhm.
team was on fire and they were scoring goals and it was easy. And Bruins made it look impossible to be scored on. So, and I think to your point, it was because of the neutral zone. It was because they were coming as a 5-man unit. At times we've seen one person go and the other 4 back, or being too spread out, not cohesive enough. And they are that group at this point now, all 200 feet.
Yeah, I loved. We saw him multiple times. We showed after the second period, I believe. About was it second period? I think where they had 3 or 4 opportunities in the neutral zone. Where I mean, these games at late night. I sound like an old geezer, but I am. Just everything blurs into one. But we had a breakdown in the second. I think it was second intermission where Bruins a couple of times neutral zone, like their back pressure, but they're just stripping of pucks. Meanwhile, LA wants to set up in that very can be at times debilitating, demonizing 1-3-1 in the neutral zone. And except for maybe once or twice in this game, do I remember the Bruins having to face the 1-3-1 because the Bruins got pucks out quickly, but they got through this neutral zone with speed. And LA didn't regularly, even though they had over 30 shots, didn't regularly have what we would call that sustained zone time, where then the Bruins would have to get the puck, break it out, and have with skates up the ice face an opponent that was reset for them in the neutral zone. They didn't have much of that at all, and that was a key factor in the game last night. No question about it. Let's touch on the fight, Trent Frederic and Lemieux, Brendan Lemieux. The only reason I want to touch on it is because at times, we haven't seen Freddie fight much lately, and you're up by 2 goals at that time, and some people might be like, "No, don't fight that guy right there." But Brick talked about it, and I agree with him. That there was a good fight, I think, and it was Lemieux's. I mean, he might be an inch shorter than Frederic, but he's thick, he's wide, he's very willing to do that. What is it? That is 6th or 7th fight of the season. And I think that was a good measured agreement from Trent Frederic there. And I think it helped continue the good play of the Bruins in that period from a solid fight, fair response, and good result.
Yeah, agreed. And that's what Trent Frederic is. He shouldn't be, he can't fight Tom Wilson. He's not what we saw at the start of last season where he was chirping nonstop and he was PK. We saw that whole thing. And then we saw him fighting Tom. That's not him. This is
Mm-hmm.
him. The third line, good forechecking, body on puck, fight Lemieux when he needs to, be measured about it, good time for the team, even though they're up 2-0. Typically you let people sleep, but that was a half Bruins crowd anyways in
Yeah.
the Staples Center or crypto.com. It was completely God probably ended up getting the Bruins team more fired up because of the crowd in the building was probably louder for Trent Frederic. And all around, that's just That's where Trent Frederic's game is. I hope he's feeling comfortable in that slot and not trying to do too much with his mouth or with anything. Just go out, play hard, and know that there's enough guys you can still fight in this league that at times when it's necessary. And it always helps on a road trip too. It's one of those things, like a road trip's a good time to do that when everyone's together. It's just an interesting. These are interesting games. They're different games when you're on these 6-game road trips. You really do feel like you're just you guys in the world,
Right.
and fights like that can bring groups together as well.
Yeah, it continues the statement of, hey, we're here to play tonight, guys. We're here, and you got your guy, fine. We've got our guy. We got his back. He's playing on the line now with Craig Smith, who actually I thought didn't score but did some good things in the game. Again, Charlie Coyle. Neither of those guys are big talkers. You know what I mean? So I think maybe Freddie's also learning from them. And while I understand, and hear me out on this, I understand Nick Foligno's had a tough year. It has not been easy for Uncle Nick. He doesn't run around looking for fights. He's talked about it happens, and he's fought. He's not as big as Trent Frederic, but he has that element to his game, especially when he was younger, Razor, where that was part of it. Maybe he's teaching him, hey, Freddie, pick this, not opponent, but pick this spot versus that one. Because when I say they're similar type of players, Foligno scored more probably than Frederic ever will, at times in the league. But there was still that I've got to be a complete type player, not just, a tough guy, whatever. And maybe players like the Coyles, like the Smiths, like the Folignos are rubbing off on Trent Frederic.
You'd hope so. If Trent Frederic can have a Nick Foligno type career, then he's done well
Oh,
for
yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
And at this, so yes, that's who Trent Frederic needs to lean on. It's a perfect line. He's got those 2 veteran guys to learn from. That's where he should be learning from, and including Foligno in that. That's it. He doesn't need to look all the way up the lineup. He needs to figure out what he needs to do as this third line guy, not try and figure out how to get on the top line. Figure out this and work from there. Similar to Brad Marchand in that trajectory. He's not a first line guy out of the box. Figure it out. Figure out how to be great third liner, hard to play against, and shut people down.
You can have a long career as that type of a third liner. Health, obviously, being the great equalizer there. And I am not saying it, reiterating that Trent Frederic will end up scoring as much as Nick Foligno did. I'm not saying it, but Foligno has had an edge to his game throughout his career. And while he's a good talker off the ice, I mean, he'll chirp on the ice a little, but he's not doing things that he shouldn't be doing on the ice. And it's a good lesson.
There's no antics. They're just playing, just hard to play against. No antics. And that's what I think we all want Trent Frederic to be.
Just a couple of more things before we wrap up this brew. Real quick, though, we want to talk about Fazenda Coffee Roasters. Go to fazendacoffee.com. Use the code Morning Bru and get 15% off. They are, Boston's specialty coffee roaster that you can find them in wholesale in Whole Foods, but they're all over the area as well. Here's another place they're at, Razor. They're in Coolidge Corner at Temptations Cafe. They're serving Fazenda over there. So go check out Temptations Cafe in Coolidge Corner. And again, go visit fazendacoffee.com. Use the code Morning Bru. Check out their Fazenda blend, which I love. And again, I love the darker stuff too. So they've had some others that a Mexican blend I've really enjoyed there. Try them out. There's a ton of fun ones there. But use that code to get yourself 15% off. And I was, because of the late night, I'm like, I'm gonna need a bunch of coffee. I'm actually waiting for I'm brewing my coffee at the end of this to sit down and have an moment and enjoy it. I think you have the morning off too?
I'm doing the same. I'm cranking coffee later. Like I've got a few things this morning, and then I'm gonna really enjoy my lunchtime Fazenda.
Yeah. I need that. I got a lot of crap to take care of today, but I need a nice sit down, sip it coffee. So again, fazendacoffee.com. Go check them out. All right. Jeremy Swayman, another really good start. Looking, it's even more calm. I've never seen him not calm. I'll just continue to say more controlled, second by second. Good decision to start him, obviously, against LA. You get the big boy Ullmark in now back against Anaheim. Anaheim's going to be physical, Razor. They're going to be a physical team. They're going to see what has been successful in the past against the Bruins. So now, I mean, the Bruins still should be in a good spot, though. They're staying at the same hotel. They should be rested well. They should be okay. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it should be, they should be able to put up a good challenge to the Anaheim Ducks.
It's not a terrible back-to-back. There's terrible back-to-backs in the league, whether it's a Dallas to Arizona in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
That's always that's always on the schedule, or typically that's an awful back-to-back. You're changing times. This one, you go back to the Ritz-Carlton, which is literally 45 meters away from the Staples Center. You get in there, you have your food, you have a glass of wine, you go to bed, you wake up, and you drive half an hour to Anaheim. It's pretty simple back to back. It'll feel pretty normal for everybody. And yeah, they're rolling. Keep it going. Keep banking points. And to the point of Jeremy Swayman looks normal now. He looks, you turn the TV on and okay, Swayman's in net. That's what it feels like. And to that, even to the effect of Ullmark, either one of them in there, it's starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, just like it was with Tuukka and Yarrow for a couple of years. Oh, okay, it's Yarrow's game tonight. That makes sense. And oh yeah, Sway's in there, no big deal. That's where and I'm assuming the team's getting to that point too.
Yes,
and that's been very positive for this group.
One thing I just want to ask you about that before we go. Handling the puck. You talk about how Swayman handles it much better. Now it's getting there. He's got a long way to go. Ullmark too. Do you still see a significant difference between the two? Because going from one game to the other, different goalies, the way they do puck touches, the way they look to do it, is that significant still or not with these guys?
No, I think they're pretty similar. They're both getting out and stopping it. That's the first start. So that's for a defenseman. That's the most important thing. As long as they're both stopping it, then you recognize the pucks around the net. And it seems as though Ullmark's ripping it around the boards a little bit more hard rims than Swayman. I think he can shoot it a little bit harder than Swayman can at this point, but Swayman's trying really working the 10-foot passes. So it's not too far off. It's not one of them's elite and one isn't. So I think they're progressing at this pretty close to the same level at this point. I think it is helping them get out of the zone one or two times a period, and that's all the difference is in this league.
Right. Would you have worn that suit ever that David Pastrnak wore to the game at LA on Monday night?
I probably wouldn't have back in the day, but every team has three guys that do that, especially on the LA trip. LA trip is different. The good ones are coming out. The light suits, the flower suits, the Showtime ones are coming out, and guys want to wear those more for after the game than to the game.
Did you have a teammate that you would always think back to being like a great dresser, whether or not you liked his style, but was always a great dresser?
Well, the Swedes were always ahead of the game. They always had the tight fit.
Yep.
PJ Axelson, the skinny little guy, he always had something that none of us thought was good looking because it was baggy suits in the mid 2000s, but he always had it tight and we'd make fun of him. But at the end of the day, he was way ahead of us, way smarter than us.
Whoever thought baggy suits were good?
Anybody?
Like whoever thought baggy suits were good?
Oh my God, it looks so bad, huh? Like what were we doing? It frustrates me so much because I look at what the guys are wearing now, and it's like, man, that would have been fun to wear that stuff. Man, I should have just gone with the Swedes and been smart. Followed their lead. Like Matt Sundin was always perfect, meticulous. Like just the big fellow was, and he was huge, but he still looked great all the time in his suits. And but yeah, LA was always you always had an LA suit or two in the back of the closet, and you pulled it out for the guys only on those trips.
LA suits usually translate, if you're good, to a second round on playoff suit too. The weather's warmer. Yeah. You can wear it there, both of them. You're not doing it to be arrogant. You're doing it to be confident and secure.
Yeah.
And, that's the same type of thing. But yeah, no, I do miss traveling out west because I've got some what I would call it's not so much summer suits, but I've got more of those. If two of them or so that I'd be like, yeah, those would be good. If I was, if we were doing the game from LA, I would have brought the off-white, winter white, that is, mind you, out there.
Oh, yeah. Lots of color, off-white.
Yep, and it would have had fun with it. So if you haven't seen Pasta's suit, if you didn't get a chance to stay up, go take a look at it. It's on social media somewhere. All right, wrap up this Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Thank you to Berkshire Bank, the wonderful people there, our presenting sponsor, and to Fazenda Coffee, fazendacoffee.com. Go check them out. Morning Brew is your code. All right, Razor and I are going to be back Friday morning. We are going to do a show after the Vegas game. That is our next scheduled show. But Anaheim is on deck on Tuesday night for the Bruins. Then they go Thursday to Vegas. They'll have a day off in Vegas. Vegas is where they're also going to spend an extra night after the game. So a little hiatus for the guys to have a little fun. Good for them. Again, Razor and I will be back with you Friday late morning with your next Morning Brew. And in the meantime, everybody be well, be safe, and enjoy your coffee.